welcome to Progression from Depression. And I'm here with Daffy, Darren, Lawrence, and we're going to be sharing our story of the dark days and how we've overcome them. So, Daffy, what we'll do is just have a bit of a disclosure. Do you want to share some of that for the audience?
Yeah, we're going to be touching on some of our own personal dark days, depression, some deep dark stuff. That's not going to be all of it. It's going to be some of it. And if anybody is upset by any of the content, upset by some of the stories we share, and keeping in mind they are our personal stories, please get in touch with Lifeline or Beyond Blue, some organization like that. We do have the numbers if you need them. Just drop a message into the chats, and we'll send you those numbers. So just keeping in mind, if you are triggered or whatever by any of the content, please get some help.
100%, man. And thank you for sharing that, bro. Just echoing that. And what we are gonna be touching on, I'm gonna reiterate, is our personal stories. And we're not counselors or people to give advice. And we're here just to share those dark days because for myself, I really want to share the authentic parts of me that not everybody gets to see. So
Oh,
leading into that, what we'll do is a three-word check-in, which is a standard practice. So what's your 3 words, bro?
my 3 words is at the moment, because right in this moment, I'm feeling excited, stoked to be here and being able to share in this podcast with you, Slade. Um, Second one, excited. I found out some news last night. So there's a bit of confusion there. So excitement, I'm feeling a little bit confused, but I'm putting that on the back burner, that one. And feeling honored. I'm really feeling like a deep, authentic man in this moment to be able to be here and share my story in an authentic, real, and an honest way.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, thank you, bro. My 3 words are I'm feeling proud of myself, honestly. I've come a long way to get to this point. So really feeling proud of myself and yeah, feeling grateful to get to have an experience like this. Grateful for technology, grateful for you, Daffy, grateful for the audience watching. Yeah, just really grateful. And my last word is I feel accomplished. And what I mean by that is I feel like I've accomplished a lot lately, and it's taken me to this step, which is now another adventure to accomplish. But keep doing those reps. So yeah, oh, thank you, bro. And we'll touch on a three gratitudes just briefly. So what are you grateful for, bro?
I'm grateful for my health. So grateful for my health. I'm grateful for all of the family, friends, and community that I have around me. And my third gratitude is it always goes back to my Hilux. I'm so grateful for my four-wheel drive Hilux. It's loaded full of tools. Every time I hop in my Hilux, I'm like, oh, it's like my first love.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's awesome, bro.
Mm.
My gratitudes are my vision board. I'm looking it up there, and that's my foundation. That vision board has been there for over a year now, and there's been improvements to it, accomplishments on it. So yeah, super grateful for that. Grateful for technology and hoping that this recording is going to work out. And if it doesn't, I'm grateful for that too. And I'm grateful for my health as well. and we're very, very lucky in Australia to get so many foods and actually get the choice to be healthy. We're really grateful for that.
Yeah.
And we'll jump into it, man. We'll
Rightio.
jump into the first topic, which is almost the start of our journeys. And we've got journeys which revolve around family challenges, family dysfunction. So what was your family life like growing up, pre-depression stage?
Um, it was a mix mash. My upbringing was this big mishmash. I had so much freedom as a kid, so much freedom. You know, I remember spearfishing since about 10 or 11 years old. We used to go for holidays down at the beach, so there was this mix mash. Um, there wasn't a lot of open communication, open deep communication, so that left me confused. Um, and it was hard. We didn't have a lot of money. Didn't have a lot of money. Pretty much the way I saw it as a kid was poverty. You know, growing up in poverty. Um, yeah, so it was a mixed mash, but I had that freedom.
Yeah.
The best thing I can remember about my childhood is taking my dog for walks. It was my chores every morning and every afternoon. I had to take my
Mm,
dog for at least an hour's walk.
yeah.
So that was my introduction into getting into the bush.
Mm,
This is in primary school, as far
yeah.
back as you can remember, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, I was in the bush.
Yeah.
And that was my escapism. You know, I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, but the more and more I got into the bush, the more and more it was just this safe environment that wasn't expecting anything from me.
Mm, that makes sense. So you
So
touched on escapism there. What do you feel like you're escaping from to get to that safe haven? What were you running from?
I was running from disharmony, disharmony in the household. I
Mm,
was getting away from that. And
yeah.
I'm sure any man with an older brother or a younger brother will know that, you know, we're predominantly fighting. And it wasn't it's normal stuff. Brothers fight. Um I love my bro to pieces. You know, I've always looked up to him. Always looked up to him. But it was more the disharmony from parenting. There was
Mm,
disharmony in the household. I'm not going to go right into it. At some point in these podcasts, it'll go deeper. So this is
mm,
today's just touching on the surface and the topics. Um, it will go deep. It,
yeah.
it it will go deep at some stage. So
Mm,
I'm just going to use the word disharmony. There was a lot of
yeah.
disharmony, and that's what I found in the bush was
Mm,
harmony.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, man.
Mm.
100%.
And
Yeah,
what about you?
I relate to that as well, man. And I was born in South Africa. So a bit of backstory here. I was born in South
Whoa,
Africa. Did you not know that one?
you just reminded me, but every time somebody mentions South Africa, I kind of have an idea of what South
Mm.
Africa's like.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's very different compared to Australia. That's the nicest way to put it. And it was we moved over when I was about 8 years old. So my dad got a job. We moved over. Parents were together at that time, and things seemed like they were going well. And about 4 years after we moved to Australia, my parents split. So at that stage, it was a challenge. It didn't make any sense to me. I felt like I was in the middle of this family dysfunction, and I go see dad, and then dad would be saying negative things about mum, and then vice versa. So I was just in I felt trapped every place I went to, and I didn't like that. So it's the same thing, man. I wanted to escape. I wanted to get away from those feelings, that environment somehow. So
How
what I
old
used,
how old were you then?
so I was 12 at that time. So it was it was going out. It was going fishing. It was just getting outdoors, riding the bikes, man. I couldn't be home. It would bore me to death. That's what it felt like. But now realizing I was actually just wanting to get out of that environment, just wanted to escape from that present moment.
So we've got a common theme sort of
Yeah,
playing along here.
100%, man. 100%. And what that really led into was being really, really independent. I didn't feel like I wanted to be around the family, so I'll go do things on my own, which then I wasn't around anybody else because I got my pleasure away from that pain. And I feel like that's where kind of it started going downhill in a way, because the intention was to escape. It wasn't to go actually enjoy kayaking or enjoy fishing that much. I was really just wanting to remove myself from that situation. Mm.
And
So it
and
was,
and that turned into a pleasure.
mm, yeah, definitely. It was the intention at like 12 years old. I wanted to go and do those things, but what was underlying under that was this pain where I just didn't want to feel it at all. So I was unintentionally brushing the pain under the carpet and not actually dealing with it, because I didn't know what I didn't know at 12 years old as well. So I can't dig at myself for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, it's great it's helpful to see the relatabilities and the ties between it. And that I feel like that's really why we have been drawn to do something like this, because we just bounce off each other. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, well, as you're speaking, because it's a real it's I'm seeing it as a real parallel story.
Mm,
No, it's really in alignment, and as you're speaking and unfolding it, I can feel the pennies drop in my mind about, oh yeah, okay, so the way you're putting it, it's so relatable in my own story.
mm, yeah.
And that's
So,
that that that's that escapism. I'll go into the story of it as we the podcasts go on, but
mm,
that escapism for me led to drugs.
mm,
Well, alcohol first. At I think 13,
mm,
13 years old, the alcohol started. Um, I could see that my parents could see that something was going on, but I didn't have the role models around me to express
yeah,
what was going on.
yeah,
That, that people could see that my family could see that something's going on,
mm,
and I can see back then, because this is back in 1983, and I could see then, and I remember saying to my mum at that young age, because I started surfing at 12 years old. And I said to my mum, we walked past a shop, and I said, oh, I want a brand new pair of board shorts.
yeah,
I, I don't want a pair that you've made, because my mum used to make us our clothes, and she'd get the labels off Quicksilver or whatever, old ripped up shorts by somebody
yeah,
else. She'd get the label and she'd sew it on some shorts that she made.
mm,
And I said to her that I want a pair of those brand new ones. I don't want our homemade ones. And she said, well, you better get a job.
yeah,
And that she could see that we couldn't afford it, but she could see
Mm.
that I was kind of maybe going off the rails in some way. See,
Yeah.
12 years old, puberty's ready, starting to kick in, as well
Mm.
as the drinking had started.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, behind closed door, like away from the parents, hiding
Mm.
with mates and drinking.
Yeah.
And when she said, you better get a job, I didn't think too much of it, but it was at the age of 13 or 14.
Mm.
Yeah, 14, maybe around that time, that
Yeah.
she come home and she said, I got you a job.
Mm.
And and it was the worst job for a teenager, man. It was as a baker. So I was having to get up at 11 o'clock at night
Mm.
and go to work until 7 a.m. in the morning on
Yeah.
a
Wow.
on a Friday and Saturday night. Now
Mm.
this is sacrilege to a teenager. This
Yeah.
is this isn't allowed to happen. Like I can't drink with my mates.
Mm.
I can't go to parties. I can't go onto the streets and play up.
Yeah.
So that that kept me in check, for a while, and then I ended up getting an apprenticeship at the age of 16 as a baker.
Yeah.
So that job actually sort of kept things on a little bit of an even keel instead of going right off the rails.
Mm.
Because it was 15 that I started smoking weed.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
then you got alcohol consumption and weed consumption in a young developing mind.
Yeah.
That's recipe for a time bomb.
Mm.
And
100%, man.
and it's all related to escapism.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Spot on.
what
Spot
am
on.
I
And that's,
escaping from?
yeah, that's it. And that's really what it boils down to. The underlying thing is escapism. And for myself, it was very similar with the drugs and the alcohol, and just wanted to run, just wanted to get away from the feelings and have what I thought was a good time, which it felt there it was good times that I had, but what I found with alcohol, my extreme behaviors, I would I would make a beer bong. I'd go to Bunnings and make a beer bong in the store. Cost me about $30. Go get a ten pack of Summersby ciders, down those all through the beer bong, vomit, tacky, and then it's time to go to the pub. So that's how I rolled. And it was fun in the moment and it was fueling my ego, but the next day was just an absolute crash. And that's really where the depressive stages came in, where it was like this introduction to my dark days where it felt good in the moment, downing 10 drinks at once, and then the next day I just crashed. And then I wanted to do it again. So I was on this dopamine high and low, just
How old were you when you started that?
that was about 16, where it was like heavily drinking. So that that was that was an introduction because the introduction to the depressive stage because it was changing my dopamine levels. It created a lower baseline. So I needed more alcohol to shoot to the top and I'd crash even further.
Mm.
So it came up like I felt hungover, but I just didn't want to be anywhere. And I didn't care about anything. And just anxiety and then didn't remember the night before. And then I was anxious about not remembering things because I don't know what I did. And then anxious about the future because I wanted to drink more. So it was, and I thought that was being hungover. It didn't make sense.
So just for the listeners,
Mm,
and any future listeners, can you let us know what a beer bong is?
mm.
What
So
what what?
basically, think of a funnel. Normally a funnel's about this big, but what I would do, I go get a fuel funnel. There's a red fuel funnel, and I think it's maybe a 10 liters or so can fit in the funnel. And on the end of that, you've got a pipe about an inch wide, meter long with a valve on the end. So I could fit 3 standard drinks within that whole thing. You turn the valve and inhale the alcohol basically. So that's how I did it. And on an empty stomach, fill me up. Once it's all in there, let it sit for a little bit. It's absorb whatever alcohol I can, and then vomit it up. So I don't vomit in the middle of a club. And it made sense to me because I could spend $50 before I go out and maybe spend $20 when I'm actually out.
Wow, that's hardcore, dude.
Oh yeah. It's nuts, man.
That's
And
hardcore.
yeah, I was the life of the party, but no one knew the dark hours after that.
Mm,
Nobody knew why I was doing it. And the word depressed, Jim Carrey says it the best. He says, think of depression. The word depressed means your body is going into deep rest. As in, for myself, I was playing a character. I was playing this exciting, outgoing, amazing person, and that was my mask. And that character needed to go in deep rest the next day because it was a weight. It was this weight of a character that I was holding. That mask got too heavy. So that's really where the depression kind of took a downward spiral because
mm,
I lost who I was. Everybody loved the drunk Slade, but nobody even knew the aftermath of that.
mm.
Mm. So
I
what
yeah,
was your it sounds like we have relatable situations with the consumption of substance. So how did that affect you? I'm curious with the depression side of things. How did that
well, see, it was there was a mixed mash of things. It was
mm,
the um the home life wasn't, was the a part of it. The drugs and alcohol were a part, and we've got to keep in mind, from 13, 14, 15, 16, we got fragile minds.
yeah.
We've got fragile brains. If
Mm,
they're not nurtured from, this point to this point, then neurologically what happens is it changes our neurobiology. And this is fact.
mm,
This is science. It changes our brain chemistry. So I not only had the traumas of home and then mixed some drugs and alcohol in, but this is one that's really overlooked by a lot of people, is my sleeping patterns and body clock was being twisted as well, because I was getting up when people are going to bed, and I was going to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning when people are getting up. So that brain chemistry as well in a young mind, mixed with all these other things, it's like building a it's like building a car bomb. It's packed into the boot, and it's just looking for a fuse to light it. That's what was going on. So there was this whole buildup of all of these things was
mm,
leading to a massive explosion somewhere down the line,
mm,
and that ended up happening at 17 or 18 years old, and it went down because the young fragile mind was confused about the world. In our teen years there, where I'm going to speak from males, because I am a male. I'm not going to speak for the feminine side, but for us males, um, I know that I was looking for that tribe. I was looking to have a tribe to be in as a young man, and to have my place in that tribe, but none of that was around. Yeah, I had my soccer team. I was a successful sports player,
Mm.
representative. I started playing representative soccer, football at the age of 10 years old.
Yeah, well.
And
Mm.
it went on. So I had that tribe, but there's something missing in that tribe, because it was
Mm.
all about soccer. It was all about, this is what we're
Yeah.
here to do, this is what we do. There was no there was no mentors. There was
Mm.
no one to say what's going on in here.
Yeah.
No one to help me with what's going on in here. And it just kept it was years, really. And when I think about it, it was from childhood that it was, that ramp you're talking about was going down, and it
Yeah.
was at 17, 18 where it all imploded and
Mm.
exploded.
And what
And
did that look like for you? What was that? What were those darkest days for you at like 17, 18 that you'd like to share?
well, I had my first girlfriend at 16.
Yeah.
Um, it went on for, I don't know, maybe a year, but then I I didn't find, I got with this amazing, beautiful young woman in the local area. And I thought, see, nobody taught me about love as well. What what love is, because my idea of love was distorted.
Mhm.
But this idea of love, I thought I'd found her. Like, wow. And it was all based on, I mean, we're talking about 17 years old, you know. It was based on, obviously, just physical attraction, and then add those chemicals into the mix of this volatile team,
Mm.
and then we had a breakup, and that was the fuse that was lit.
Mm.
So I didn't know how to handle rejection.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to handle anything, nothing, in a
Mm.
in a diplomatic or safe or loving way. I
Mm.
didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Wow.
and not only that, mental health issues.
Yeah.
So we can talk about all of these things, the drugs and the alcohol and the chemistry and this and this. Um, back in the 70s and 80s, there was diagnosis of things wasn't really out there like it is today. Being
Mm.
able to go and see somebody. So that I learnt later on in life that there was a lot of mental health issues going on there: anxiety, depression, and recently found ADHD.
Mm.
Man, we got a time bomb happening here.
Yeah.
We've got the world just about to explode, and it did when I broke up with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you with that, man. So
Uh,
what does, keeping on the subject of depression, in those darkest times, through those depressive stages after that breakup, what were the actions or what did it look like? And
Suicide
maybe how,
ideation.
mm.
It was suicide ideation, and I wasn't I wasn't going to go there, Blade. I was going to sort of ease into this story, but I'm being bold. I am aware of the repercussions of what I'm about to go into. And hey, I'm here to be real. I'm here to be authentic. Um, I It wasn't just suicide ideation. I attempted suicide in a very deep way because I had access to firearms. I had my own firearms, and I took one of those firearms and I ritualistically went into a ritual to end it all. The fuse was lit, and I ended up I shot myself. It's it's a big story. There's a lot to that story.
Mm.
But being real, I went through with it. I shot myself, and I survived. And that's why I'm here today. And I wasn't going to disclose that. We talked about this before this podcast.
We did.
I'm not going to go there,
Yeah.
man. I'm not going to go there. But I have, because I this is why I'm here, man.
Mm.
Authenticity, realness, and to let people know that I've been there on more than one occasion.
Mm.
And I fucking survived.
Yeah.
And I'm here right now doing a podcast to talk about this in the purpose of helping other people realize there is life after, and for a start, with people like us and the men and community we know, we don't even have to go there to the ideology
Mm.
if we have a good set of men and
Yeah,
community around us.
definitely, man. 100%. I
Mm.
just want to acknowledge you for having the courage to share that, man. I'm gonna have to go back to that because that's huge.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of balls to express something like that. And especially on a new platform like this. And yeah,
Thank,
I appreciate it, man.
thank
Honestly.
you.
Mm. And what I've found for myself, I'll share. I've been down there. I've really been down there. And going back to the ramp, it's the family dysfunctioning, what we would call conditioning, and creating that's the foundation. And if there's a poor foundation built in family, well, it's going to be a wonky building on the way up. So when without my wonky foundation, I attempted to build my structure and it didn't work. And what that then looked like going down, the depression, the anxiety, extreme behaviors, hectically extreme behaviors, and on from that, and reminding it's an escapism. The only way to truly escape in my head at 16, 17, 18 years old was to not be around anymore. And it just made sense. To me, that was logic. And because of the drinking, I was on another planet. I was on another plane. And it made it made sense to stop trying to escape because it really wasn't achieving anything. It didn't it seemed so stupid to keep drinking when I was drinking so much. And it got to the point where my addictive behaviors went away from alcohol, away from weed, and it actually was self-harming myself. I was addicted to self-harming myself. And it was another way to escape. It was another way to get out of my mind. I didn't understand pain in here. Anxiety, depression, I can't see that. I'm a visual learner. It doesn't make sense. But I could make sense of physical pain that I can see on my body. And another way to escape. And what that led to was why am I trying to escape so much? I've got to do something about it. And I attempted I attempted suicide as well. And I hung myself. And this happened once. First time was in 2020. So I actually graduated school that year. It was 3 months after, didn't understand what I was meant to do with myself. I was on a bender for months after schoolies, and what's left? It just didn't make any sense to me. And was very, very distant from people, didn't really care. The only people that really knew me only knew the side of me that was drunk. And yeah, that was the choice that I made. And going on from that, what I really craved truly was a sense of attention from people. That's what I felt. The attempt wasn't to gain attention, but it was like a call for help from something else other than me. It wasn't a call for help from a certain person or my family. It's just, hey, I'm struggling. I don't know how to communicate it because I don't actually get it. It doesn't make sense to me, but help me. And the what I found to be the way to that I worked through that was to start expressing things and communicating with the right people. And that's what I had to do that night. The night it happened, I had to call somebody. And I just told her what happened. Went to the house, got an Uber there. I was still plastered, and I just expressed what was going on. Like there for 10 minutes and then left. But I got it off my chest. It there was not to the right person whatsoever, but it got expressed. So what I want to chat about is how we can this is very extreme behaviors that we've both done, which may not be the norm with people. And it's looking at the polarity and where if something is, it may be a simple experience like a parent's divorce or some sort of dysfunction in the family with a foundation that's not solid, there is potential for anybody to get to the stages that we did. And that's the truth. That's the hard, cold facts.
Yeah,
So,
if we look at the statistics that, even post COVID, and then in my local area, we had the 2022 floods.
mm,
So since then, we only have to look at the statistics. Suicide rates have gone up.
yeah,
Mental health has gone up. You cannot get in to see a psychologist in this local area, so they've set up. You can get in to see a psychologist,
mm,
but it obviously a longer process now instead
mm,
of pre-COVID.
yeah,
So they've set up a couple of organizations where psych nurses, psychiatric nurses will
mm,
do an evaluation, and if it's not an immediate ret, so to speak, not a red
yeah,
light, so to speak, the psych nurse will do the counseling
mm,
and then refer if it needs to be referred to a psychologist. That's when they'll get them in. But because it's the statistics and the overwhelming bombardment now of depression,
mm,
anxiety, it's just coming in thick, and that's another reason why I love what we're doing here and in starting these podcasts, because if we can have an impact um just here, then we're kind of nipping things in the bud, so to speak.
yeah,
um and
100%,
that's
man.
and that's where I'm coming from with these talks. I'm not coming here to do anything else but to hopefully help and nip things in the bud for some
Hmm.
listeners.
Yeah, definitely, bro, definitely. And one thing that what I've found is by expressing more and more and more my story, it just becomes a story. And that story will always have power. It'll always have some sort of influence to help people. And but for myself and how I feel after expressing it more and more and more times, it doesn't affect me as much. It's not a traumatic experience. It's just I look at it as a past negative experience. It doesn't have any sort of power over me. It's something that happened which made me me, and that's just what happened. So echoing that, man, 100% to be here to express for ourselves and for others, it's absolutely amazing.
Mm.
Mm,
my experience with the suicide is it's a whole root system. It's not just okay, I did this and I got over it. It
Yeah.
took years because there was a couple of attempts. And it wasn't a cry for help because it it was done, in away from everyone, isolated and everything else. So what I'm touching on here is it took years to be able to express
Mm.
that I tried that.
Yeah.
And in all of those years, I carried so much guilt, so much shame, and
Mm.
it's, yeah, they're only words, but the feelings behind those things actually helped fuel and feed depression.
Mm.
Guilt and shame were the was the depression sustenance. Guilt and shame was a big one for me, man.
Mm. Yeah.
Guilty,
Well.
feeling guilty for so much stuff,
Mm.
and feeling shameful. Oh man, and wanting to hide away and isolate even more because of that guilt and shame. So it
Mm.
was a food for depression.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And I relate to that as well, man. For me, it just felt like a constant spiral. I I tried to implement things to help or go to the gym or something, but it wasn't the consistency that I needed. And I did it alone. I tried to solve this problem that I didn't even understand alone. So that I couldn't I couldn't find some sort of solution for myself because nobody even knew about the problem. So what do you feel was the three key things that helped with overcoming over the long period?
Okay, well, mine is a it's a beautiful overcoming journey, because what I did at the age of 21, I I left the area. I grew up in this area, and I was here until I was 21. And at the age of 21, I just went, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm going. And it was escapism. I was escaping all of what I thought, the paranoia of eyes are on me because I did this and I did that, and the guilt and the shame. I was escaping that. And the beauty, the opposite to the escape, was I was a young man that was getting out into the world and exploring the world and seeing the world. So it was a double-edged sword. I was running from my problems, and I was running from everything and everyone, and I disappeared. And even my parents can tell me this story. They were going to ring, this was later on, 27, 27 until maybe 30 years old. I disappeared off the planet.
Mm.
I
Yeah, well.
no contact with anyone I knew.
Mm.
Dropped off, dropped out. But going back to 21, I started traveling. I worked on cattle stations, and did seasons on outback cattle stations in
Yeah.
some of the remotest areas on the planet. Um, and I felt there was no guilt, no shame, because nobody knew me.
Mm.
I was able to reinvent myself. I had an identity. I'm a ringer. I'm a stockman. I'm a bull rider. The extreme behaviors didn't stop. It went from all of the, skateboarding, like hardcore skateboarding and all that growing up, and extreme stuff, riding big waves, to then going into the outback and becoming a stockman, already had the farming background. The extremities of sports turned into bull riding.
Mm.
I get me on it. I want to feel something.
Yeah.
So I had an identity. I was a ringer. I was a cowboy, and getting on a bull in a rodeo was the peak of adrenaline and oh shit, I'm now feeling something.
Yeah.
And it's so intense.
Mm.
In a way, it's suicidal. In a
Yeah.
way, but
Mm.
it's so that was the journey. I left and I started traveling.
Mm. Yeah.
It wasn't until I was 30 years old that I come back to the area. And a great brother, because I had a very intense experience in underground mining. We'll unpack that at another time, but I got back to the local area, and a close brother, he's here right now actually. He looked into my eyes because we hadn't seen each other for years, and he said, "What happened out there? Something happened." He could see the trauma all over me. Long story short, he introduced me to a meditation, Vipassana meditation, and
Mm.
that changed my whole world.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
didn't
definitely.
I didn't stop traveling, but I was then traveling without running away from things. I was actually traveling, comfortably, but from 21 to 30 years old,
Mm.
I ran and ran and ran from all of my troubles, all of my past and everything. And one day that caught up with me.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really huge, man. What I can sum up with those, you craved that nature. You craved the outdoors, that no, whether it was escapism, whether it was actually appreciating it, that's truly what you wanted.
Good pickup,
And
because that came from as a kid in the bush,
mm, yeah.
that safety.
The safety, the connection to nature, and also independence,
In
exploring. And it's just transmuted into that adult life. And the other thing that you touched on was, what was it? Um, the self-work with the meditation side of things. As in, you put yourself first, you unpack some things and implemented a practice to help yourself actually appreciate the nature rather than using it as a tool for escapism.
Yeah.
And that's that's some of the most important things I felt with my journey as well. I got to be outdoors, man. We're not, as humans, I believe we're not meant to be put in a box in a room constantly. We're not necessarily meant to be in front of screens or anything like that. It's not natural to, our bodies aren't designed for that. So having extended amounts of time in nature, whether it be camping, whether it be off-grid living full time, whether it's a weekend trip, anything like that has really, really helped me just appreciate just the world for what it is, exploring, and that's part of the healing journey in in my experience. And I feel that's necessary. It's necessary to for myself to go hit the beach, go explore some, just go rock jumping up a creek to find some waterfall that I don't know exists. And that engages my mind with it. And from a physical sense, it physically grounds me because I'm with nature and I'm out of a box, away from the screens, away from any sort of distraction from that present moment. And it's so simple as well. It's just walking through a bush. There's nothing to it, but
When,
there's so
when,
much to get from it.
when did you first like you said, as a teen, you'd get on your bike and ride
Mm,
around and stuff. But when was your real first connection with nature?
mm. We used to hit the beach every second weekend with dad. And so I was probably 12 or 13. And whether it was in the middle of winter, whether it was hot in summer, it didn't matter. So that was kind of where it started. When I got my license, sweet, I'm not going to be home ever. I want to go explore. And it was just to touch on quickly. I ended up in Bundaberg the one time because I wanted to go explore. Like went up there and then went further, stayed in 1770 Agnes Waters for like from 1 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock, turned around, came home on an hour sleep just for the sake of I wanted to explore, I wanted to escape. And that there was it was a realization I needed. I needed to go up there, I needed to explore, see the ocean, see the beach, to turn around and come home to realize, hey, life's actually not that bad. I wasted a hell of a lot of money on fuel, but that was so fun.
I don't think it was a waste.
No, it wasn't a waste. There was money spent on fuel, but no, it definitely wasn't a waste. You're spot on, man. Mm. So to sum up I guess the tools that the viewers can use and what we've also used, I feel like the main things are connection to nature, self-work of some sort of self-development or self-care, and then implementing and experiencing some sort of community within whether it's a community of men, of women, an online community. Those, from my understanding, seem to be the common ground of solution-based ideas.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'd like to add one in on that too.
Mm,
Is it's behaviors aren't an easy change.
mm,
Changing behaviors doesn't happen overnight. As a saying that you keep saying to me that I've taken on is do the reps, do the reps. So repetitive,
mm,
day by day. It could be relapses, but the other one I'd like to add into this thing of
mm.
recovery is it's yeah, you got the nature based, which is exercise based as well.
Yeah.
Um, but the intoxicants.
What do you mean by that?
Well, our listeners, there might be listeners out there who are still, you know, chugging the beer bongs.
Yeah.
There might be listeners out there who are still, in those behaviors.
Mm,
So I'd just like to add in to really, if you really want to have a prosperous life, um, look at what's not working,
mm.
and start focusing on those things that aren't working. Because we can talk about what works. Also have a look at, hey,
Mm.
what's not working.
Definitely.
Uh,
100%. And it's easier to sometimes look at the things that aren't working rather than how do I fix this problem? But looking at those problems, and it simplifies the task to complete. It's great to have go connect to nature, have these tools, go find a community. But what's the problem? For me, for example, it was alcohol. What am I going to do about it? Okay, I'm going to start reducing it. And then I decided to completely just cut it out. So it was a step. Now I've still got problems in my life, but it's so much easier to focus on. I'm gonna go and fix that one, or I'm gonna decide to reduce that negative behavior and then completely cut it out of my life at this certain date where it's building up to it. And it's what I feel like is necessary with that. It's great to have the idea of I'm gonna reduce alcohol or I'm gonna connect with nature more. But the key is doing it with other people. And what I really enjoy, I could 100% do a podcast like this on my own, but it would be pretty boring. if I did it on my own. So to have you in the space, to have you, Daffy, in the space where we can bounce ideas off each other, we can relate. There's a small sense, there's a sense of relatability, and then a small sense of community within the space, and then outside of the space as well. So that is key to actually hold each other accountable, because this is benefiting both of us by just sitting here and just talking.
100%, 100%. This is where I brought it up last night in the group meeting, that I feel really honored that I'm being approached by family and friends to help raise their sons. And I'm just honored and blown out, because it's like, wow, if we look at, if I was judged on my past, then I wouldn't be asked to help. So it's pretty obvious that I've made big changes, and not overnight. It's been a journey, a long journey to get to where I am. So that's what I'm being, not judged on, but that's what I'm being seen as now. People have seen this journey and gone, oh wow, there's a man worthy of helping us with our boys. And within that journey is the community, which you're talking about, that aspect of community. And at the moment, it started years ago with men's work, but with that journey on men's work and being with a group of solid men, authentic and being real, there was just something missing along the way with those groups, until I came up with the one we're in now, Primal Man.
Yeah.
It's gone to the next level. So I have not only a community of men that I can express authentically to, but the resources that are within that community of men is phenomenal. If we want access, if say I wanted access to a spaceship, I'm sure that there's a man in our community that would just be able to somehow go, well, I heard that. What I'm saying is the resources are abundant. And
100%.
And this plays a part in depression. If you've got that community and you've got that support around you, then you've got the resources to whatever you want to get, to achieve whatever you want,
Yeah.
to get to wherever you want to go.
Yeah, spot on, man. Spot on. And it's really complementary to the independence of somebody's journey. To have the support, to have accountability, to have even just times where you don't even want to talk about anything to do with self-development. You just want to have fun. Talk about some highlights. It's so much better to do it in a space with somebody who's authentic than a bloke at the pub, from my experience. So, man, this has been absolutely awesome. That calls us at time. It's absolutely flown by, which is crazy. And just to reiterate for the viewers what we touched on. So we started off at family dysfunction, and Daphne and I both shared the challenges that we faced growing up and some of the good times as well. But those challenges then led to the depressive stages, where it was those darker days were coming to fruition, and it was the first times that we kind of experienced depression, which then led on to how we struggled with suicide, both of us in our own experiences, our own journeys. And then to sum it up, to actually get out of that rock bottom, some tools that we implemented to complement our journey was the community, working on ourselves, but then also nature, which is it sounds so simple, but to actually get out. And then imagine combining all of those. Imagine combining going out to nature in a community and working on yourself out in nature. How cool is that? And that's our journey, and that really sums up our podcast, man. And you got anything else to add, bro?
Yeah, I do. Look, for the listeners, young and old, male or female, we do, Slade and I do have the resources. We're not the only ones on the planet, but we do have a huge amount of resources. If you want to ask questions about activities, groups, programs, Slade is running a program now that anyone can sign up to. So we have resources. It's not just a podcast. We've got resources if you need them. Get in touch and we can help with that.
100%, man. 100%. It's been awesome, bro, and really excited to see where this takes us and the influence that it can have on others, which is really the gold that comes out of it, man.
Yeah, and feedback. We would love feedback.
100%, 100%. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll do the typical YouTube thing, like and subscribe for to stay updated with content. I've
For the
never
Duck
said
and
that
Blade
before.
Show.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on the next one.
Life is beautiful.